everybody, it's Diane Gale here from the blog and YouTube channel Sustainable Slow Living, and today I want to talk to you about slow living in your kitchen in the fall. So slow living in the fall kitchen. Much of slow living practices look the same in the kitchen throughout the entire year, but just like any other things that happen in the kitchen, there are certain things that are a little bit more specific to them in the fall. And we're going to cover a little bit of both. As far as what is slow living, one of these days I'm going to do a video about the concept of slow living, and then I can just refer all of you to the video because I know that there are a lot of people out there who are not familiar with the term. So if you're not familiar with the term, it's a big concept and it's more than I can cover in just a few words in a video like this. But just know that it is about slowing the pace of your living. It is about returning to simpler ways, and it definitely encompasses food in its concept. It actually kind of sprung from the slow food movement, which is the idea of going back to producing your own food, sustainably producing food, organically producing food, and if you're not producing your own, or even if you are, working with, purchasing from, bartering with other people who are sustainably producing their own organic food. So if you keep the slow food movement and the slow living movement, if you keep that general idea in mind, you can apply that to your kitchen in the fall. And that is really a wondrous thing. I love to spend time in the kitchen. And you may or may not know that about me. You may or may not have guessed that about me if you've been hanging around the channel or the blog for a while. But I love the kitchen. And I first started cooking in the kitchen when I was 7 years old. Of course, I didn't do a lot of cooking then. You know, I made Daddy a grilled cheese, and I did things like that. Heated up soup and kind of did things like that. But helped my grandma make cookies. But I have been in the kitchen since I was 7, and I can't imagine that I will ever leave the kitchen. It's a place that I love, and it's a place that I have a great deal of experience. And I do like to practice slow living in the kitchen. And there are practices that I have in my personal kitchen routines that are specific to the seasons. So let's start by talking about setting the mood in the kitchen. So setting the mood in the kitchen is something that I do often, particularly if I have an afternoon or an evening, or oh gosh, sometimes in the winter a full day that I'm going to spend in the kitchen. And it's just basically, maybe I watch some YouTube videos, sometimes just for entertainment or maybe a movie. Sometimes I watch videos, you know, more for education purposes for the blog or for the YouTube channel. It really just depends on my mood, but often I will have some kind of video going. If not, I have music going, and I usually have candles, usually scented for the season. I may pour myself a nice beverage. And then of course there's the idea of lighting. Mood lighting can be, sometimes it's something that you can do very easily in the kitchen because what you're preparing doesn't require you to have, you know, those bright kitchen lights. But I do like those bright kitchen lights when I'm doing most things in the kitchen. Still, if I'm able to just set the mood with some nice relaxed lighting, candles, a beverage, some music, a video, it makes all the difference in the world, and it makes you want to stay in the kitchen for the afternoon, for the evening, for the entire day. The next thing that I want to talk about concerning slow living in the fall kitchen is that it's always better to have a plan when you go into the kitchen. So we often go into the kitchen just to prepare a meal, right? But we have a plan. We're going into the kitchen because we're going to make chicken dumpling stew. It's a plan. When you're going to spend a significant amount of time in the kitchen and you're trying to pop out some tasks that are going to make the food that you consume, that your family consumes, healthier, then it's good to have a plan. You want to know what it is that you're going to cook. If you're just in there cooking a few dishes so that you have some things in the fridge, then you want to know ahead of time what it is that you're going to cook. You want to pick up all of your ingredients so that you have everything and you don't get in the middle of something and have to run out. This is a great time to make fall-inspired dishes, and it's also a great time to preserve food, because a lot of us are still preserving food from the fall harvest. So, you know, that's another thing. You definitely need a plan. Today I am going to cook and freeze pumpkin, and today I am going to make and put up rosehip syrup. You know, you want to know exactly what it is that you're going to do. One of the things that I like to have a plan for in my kitchen is food preparation for the week. So I don't necessarily cook a bunch of meals ahead of time. I like to prepare dishes and enjoy them right then too much. It's a big pleasure for me. But, you know, in the fall, in the summer, once a week I make salad dressings. I make 1 or 2 salad dressings to have in the fridge. In the fall, that tends to change, and I tend to prep things more for stir fries or make sauces for stir fries. I do sometimes prepare like a casserole so that I can just, one evening when I'm too busy, I can just pop that right in the oven. I also like to make 1 or 2 like healthy desserts for the week, because I try to avoid a lot of sugar in my diet, and I will tend to reach for sugar. I don't really reach for it on my own, but my son eats a lot of sugar, and so he'll have things in the house and I will reach for them if I don't have like a whole food plant-based brownie or something like that to eat. So I will prepare a couple desserts. I will prepare some sauces. I'll prepare any condiments that I might need. If I need, you know, ketchup or, you know, mayonnaise or mustard, those are things that I'm just starting to learn to make, or even salad dressings. It doesn't matter what time of year it is. Sometimes you still need a salad dressing. So I'll prepare all of those things ahead of time, and that is part of my plan for my day, you know, slow living in my fall kitchen. And also breads. I like to make a loaf of sourdough bread on that day so that I have it. They're big for us, so usually I freeze half of it, and a loaf will last us all week, sometimes more, sometimes some of it goes to the pigs. But if we're going to make some kind of specialty sandwich or something like that, maybe I'll make some rolls or something as well. So I kind of set up a plan, and then I spend a full day or maybe a couple afternoons and an evening or whatever it turns out to be in the kitchen trying to prep and get things ready for the coming week. Let's see, what are other things that I tend to do more in the fall than other times of the year? I tend to make omelet fillings. So I'll prep some things so that I can just throw a quick omelet together in the morning. In the summer, it tends to be like 2 eggs and a piece of toast. In the spring, it tends to be a lot of smoothies. And in the fall, I'm starting to do more like heartier breakfasts. So I might boil off some potatoes so that I can make some home fries one morning during the week. Or I might take and do some peppers and onions and ham and just chop them up and cook them ahead so that when I want to make an omelet in the morning, you know, no, I'm not going to stand there and prepare peppers and onions in the morning. No one has time for that. So omelet fillings are something that I do more often in the fall. Pizza toppings are something that I do more often in the fall. I will get some pizza sauce made, and I'll get some toppings prepped, and maybe even make some pizza dough and put it in the freezer. I do that a lot more often in the fall than the rest of the year. I guess off the top of my head, that's really all that I can think of. There might be more information over on the blog post for you to check out. There usually is. I also want you to know that I am going to link recipes that I have that I would generally make, you know, in my fall kitchen. I don't have a ton of recipes. I mean, my blog and my YouTube channel are kind of new. I think I have 54 or 55 posts up on the blog now, but I do have an amazing recipe for cast iron meatloaf, and that is something that I would prep ahead in, you know, in an afternoon that I spent in the kitchen. I have a great recipe for gnocchi. I have some salad dressing and condiment recipes. So there are things over there that I have a yellow split pea soup recipe, and I have a no-knead bread recipe. There are things over there that I can link down below, and if you want to browse the links below this video, you can take a look and see if there's a recipe that you're interested in. You can just click on over to that and check it out, in addition to being able to click over to this post if you want to see more information. But spending, you know, an afternoon, an evening, or a full day in the kitchen is not the only way to enjoy slow living practices in your fall kitchen. One of the simplest, most fulfilling ways to do that is to just cook meals that are fall themed. It's really healthy for us to eat the fresh foods that are available to us at the time of year that they are available. That can be a little bit more difficult when you live somewhere like northern Maine, because the season of fresh vegetables is so short, and I would have to say that it's healthier to eat fresh vegetables more of the year. But getting a quality fresh vegetable in a commercial grocery store is not really a thing, especially way up here. So, you know, I guess preserve more vegetables and use them throughout the year. That is what I've been doing for the past couple of years that I've been here. But there are other things, right? The fall is when a lot of the harvest has already been put up. So we're not getting a lot of things like tomatoes and cucumbers and green peppers and, you know, well, zucchini. Zucchini is still coming pretty strong, but we're not getting a lot of those vegetables out of the garden at this time of year. We're getting pumpkin, and we're getting winter squashes, and we're getting root vegetables, potatoes, and onions are still coming out, and you might still be getting beets. You might have planted a second crop of beets, but all of your root veggies, carrots and onions and beets, turnips, those are all veggies that it is really a pleasure to make in the fall, because they're fresh and it's that time of year when your body is wanting them. It's something that you probably haven't cooked a lot during the summer, because a lot of times you do those things in the oven, especially if you're just roasting them off and you don't want your oven, you know, running in the summer because it's too hot. So focusing on dishes with those ingredients. It's time to start eating more casseroles and things like meatloaf. Like I said before, that's something that I would prepare ahead. It's a great time to make homemade pasta, and if you've never made it before, well then that's a terrific way to spend some time in the kitchen. But going into the kitchen just to prepare a meal, and preparing a meal that's suitable for the fall. Maybe you go in the kitchen in the morning, on a Saturday morning, and you gotta get a big pot of chicken noodle soup, just kind of brew in there on the stove, and make yourself a loaf of bread. And then when dinner time comes, right, there you go, you have it. But enjoy the process of making it. Enjoy the fact that it's time to make a pot of soup. Enjoy the fact that it's time to put together a casserole, or it's time to pump out some homemade pasta. Take pleasure in the fact that the season has changed and you are making things to nourish your body that are appropriate for the season that you're in. It really pays off in how you feel physically, because it is healthier for you, but also how you feel mentally, because you are moving into a new season. And that's something that we're designed to do as humans. And at least for me, I think for many people, it also changes a lot of the way that you function spiritually, because you're connecting to Mama Earth and the way she kind of denotes that things should be. So it is good for mind, body, and soul to just go into the kitchen and prepare a meal that's appropriate for the season. So in times when you are not spending, you're not prepping things for the week and you're not doing all of the other things that we talked about at first in this video, then go ahead and set the mood, make a plan for a meal, step into the kitchen, let everything fall away, and just be in the moment. Being in the moment is good no matter what you're doing. And for me, because of my love of the kitchen, it's particularly wonderful in the kitchen. So with all of that said, another thing that I find particularly fulfilling, and it seems to come together kind of well early in the fall, maybe not always later in the fall, because we have ourselves so busy with the holiday seasons, right? We have that little tri-holiday thing going on where there's Halloween and then there's Thanksgiving and then there's Christmas and then, well, New Year's right after. So it's really more than 3, but there's the 3 really big ones that are right there. And a lot of people, especially people with young families, are very involved in all of those activities. I know even Halloween, when my son was little, I used to make his Halloween costumes. So it was kind of a big deal for me. But still, we need time to step away from all of our busyness. We need to still gather together. It's not something that we should just do in the summer or, over the holidays. It's something that we should make a little bit of time for all year because it's good for us. So make being in your kitchen, make part of your slow living practice in your fall kitchen to be social, to have a night together with your family, right? Most of the time it's women who are in the kitchen, so your sisters, your mother, your cousins. Have an evening where you get together and you do something in the kitchen, and it can be anything. That could be your homemade pasta night, or you could all just put together meatloaf so that you have them for later in the week to just toss into the oven. Or it could be a day when you take that lovely rosehip syrup that we made last week and you all get together and make some jam to put up for the winter, right? But get together and spend an evening with your family or your friends. It can just be you and your girlfriends. It can also be a couples night. A couples night is great to do like fall themed appetizers and get together and have a glass of wine and again, music. Like, set an atmosphere for the fall, serve fall themed dishes, and get together and have fun in the kitchen and just relax and enjoy it. There's no pressure. If an appetizer gets burned or if something doesn't come out quite right, it's just not the end of the world. The idea is to get together and to have some fun. Sauces are great for evenings like that. Like if you want to make homemade spaghetti sauce, you can make big batches of homemade spaghetti sauce and everybody can go home with some to put in their freezer for the rest of the year, right? It's a great way to spend some time. It gets in some socialization. It helps you get slow food into your life because this is fresh, home prepared food that you control the ingredients in. And it's just plain fulfilling on many, many levels. So gather up some friends, some family, a few couples, get together and spend a slow living evening in your fall kitchen. And then finally, there's just one more thing that I try to do every year, And I have always tried to do this every year because this is kind of the season that starts like a bulk of my cooking. And when I lived in Pennsylvania, where I had friends and family very close, I cooked a lot and we gathered together a lot. So particularly in the fall, but probably for just about every season really, I like to treat myself to a new kitchen tool right in the beginning of the season. And a lot of times that is something that, like a specialty item. Like one year, I'm trying to think of something that I got for myself, and the thing that keeps coming into my mind since I've mentioned getting together to make pasta is a pasta machine. But I actually wasn't the one who got the pasta machine. It was a very close friend of mine who got the pasta machine, and we spent an evening together. There were 5 women and we got together and we made some pasta and some homemade sauce, and I mean it was fabulous, and we made extra to go home and the whole thing. But a pasta machine is a great example, right? And you might do something that's a little more significant like that. One of the things that I would like to get this year, I'm actually not getting anything this year. And if I do, it's going to be like some little handheld kitchen utensil because of the move. We're moving to North Carolina, and it doesn't make sense to me to get some kitchen appliance, especially since I don't know what I'm going to be living in down there. But what I would really like to do this year, if I could, if the circumstances were different, is I would love to get a stand mixer. You know that we made New York bagels a little while ago, and one of the things that I talked about was how you needed the stand mixer. The bagels came out really good enough that I want to try to make them correctly, like so that they're authentic. And a stand mixer is something that I would now use. And we're now making, well, I'm now making all of the bread for the house. We rarely ever buy bread. I have not moved into making just sourdough bread where I use the sourdough to rise, but I've been making discard recipes with sourdough, and it would really be a benefit to me to have a stand mixer. So that is something that I would buy. But remember, it doesn't matter what your budget is that year, because you know, some years you can afford to buy an expensive stand mixer, and then other years you can barely eke out a $10 handheld kitchen tool. Do something for yourself. And if it's just that little handheld kitchen tool, I mean, the one year I bought myself this, I don't even know what they're called, but it's kind of like a spatula with a divot in it, and they use it a lot in Asian cooking, and I use it all the time for everything because it's super easy to like scoop things out, especially when I'm deep frying and stuff like that. It's super easy to like scoop things out with that tool. I think that tool cost me like $6, but that year I didn't have any money, but I still wanted to treat myself to something I was going to use in my kitchen. So go ahead and find something that you know that you'll use and spend whatever it is that you can afford to spend on it. If it's $10 or if it's $500, just get yourself something that you can use throughout the fall in your kitchen, and it will serve you for years to come. And I don't know, every time that I look at those things in my kitchen, they just kind of make me smile. Another thing that I'm kind of after, and I would like to find it one day at a yard sale. The yard sales are pretty sparse way up north, but maybe when I get further down south, is one of those cast iron pans, you know, that you make cornbread in, but it actually looks like corn. I have such an affinity for those, so I would love to have one of those. And my cast iron is actually another thing that I started purchasing one fall. I purchased myself a, you know, like the 10-inch skillet. I think it's 10-inch, the most common cast iron skillet. And I also purchased myself a Dutch oven with a cover that doubles. It has the handles on it, like fry pan handles, so that you can use it not only as the Dutch oven, but on top of the stove. You know, the one at the top is a shallow fry pan, and the bottom is a heftier saucepan, I guess, is the word that I want. Anyway, treat yourself. Take some of these slow living practices and bring them into your fall kitchen. Remember that one of the great things about the kitchen is that it changes with the season, and what you're craving, what you're making, that all changes with the season. So anyway, treat yourself to a new utensil. Treat yourself to a new skill. Make something new. Be sure that when you're in the kitchen this fall that you are doing some fall themed dishes, that you're not just automatically eating the same thing all year round. Run with it, enjoy it, improve those slow living skills, get the most out of the kitchen every single season. I think you're going to find that you're going to enjoy the time that you spend there even more when you kind of put a seasonal cast over the activities that you have going on. A season is only 3 months long. 3 months. So get the most out of it while you can. I'm so glad that you joined me here today. I love having you here. And you and I are going to get together again really soon.